Let's welcome in our morning guest at this moment. Avinnash Gorakssakar is joining us. Mehraboon Irani will be with us. Amar Singh as well as Manas Jaiswala also joining us. Amar, let's start with you. What are your top picks?
Yeah, very good morning, Pankaj. The first topic is Pidilite Industries. Overall, what we've seen is from a low of 580 in the last week of December. Pidilite is currently around 720-25 levels. So overall, Pidilite Industries is technically also strong on the charts. So any dip towards 720, 723 levels could be used as a buying opportunity with a stop loss of 707 and a target of 748 because overall what we are seeing is that the charts are strong and overall with the bullish momentum that's there across the major sectors, that also is, I would say, helping the stock. So it is a buy. The second is Apollo Tyres. Apollo Tyres, we've seen a significant rally since March. It's up by almost 50% from 180 levels to currently around 238 to 40 levels. So that is a level to look at buying Apollo Tyres. And the trend, if I'm looking at the trend for Apollo Tyres is extremely strong. So any pullback towards 238, 240, that ideally should be a good level to buy with a stop loss of 232 and a target of 254. And the last one is Union Bank. Across the banking space, we've seen a significant rally, I would say, Bank Nifty trading at record highs and also public sector banks taking off the last few days. And Union Bank is a good buy. That could be in the range of 160 to 161 with a stop loss of 156 and also a target of 168 because there are some indications that the NPA issues also could be getting resolved going forward by the central government taking some steps. I think that's one of the major factors which is really helping the public sector banks. And as we see, Bank Nifty is trading at record highs.
Right. Avinnash, what are your calls?
Pankaj, we have got 3 calls. The first one is on, Finolex Industries. We believe that this year is going to be a very strong year for them. Not only earnings growth, but the oncoming monsoon and the GST bill would be acting as near-term triggers. And we believe that, from the current levels, one could definitely accumulate the stock. We have a target price of 650 here. The second stock is GNFC. We believe that within the fertilizer space, this is a specialty chemical company and has a very strong presence in the urea market also. Stock has been seeing pretty good levels, around 280, 290 levels, and our sense is that earnings growth plus a very attractive valuation of just about 10 times on FY18 makes the stock a very good risk reward kind of bet. We have a target price of around 350, 360 here. And the third company is a small logistic company whom we recently met called Tiger Logistics. We believe that this is a well diversified play in multimodal as well as the normal transportation logistics segment. They are niche players in the defense logistics segment. Earnings growth has been pretty strong in the last 3 years, around 40% and this will continue. And more importantly, operating parameters like return on capital employed, return on equity sound to be extremely solid, around 30% plus. So this trajectory will be maintained. We have a target price of around 260, 270. Hopefully GST gets implemented. The earnings could possibly get revised post FY18.
All right, so that's the view coming in from Avinnash. Let's pull up the currency at 64.09. So we've gained another 1/3% at open today. The currency has looked very strong, the 64. This was perhaps not where most of the analysts anticipated the currency to head. They were seeing it reversing from around 64.25 or 64.30 back to about 65 levels, but that hasn't happened. The currency remains pretty strong. Manas, what are your top picks for the day?
Good morning, Anisha. I have 3 buy recommendations. First is M&M, because some auto stocks are looking strong on the charts, especially M&M, where the stock bounced back sharply from lower levels. It broke its 200-day moving average with great volumes. So I am expecting further up move in M&M. Possibility is high that stock can test 1350 soon. So here one can take a long call, keep the stop loss below 1290. And 2 FMCG stocks. First is Joindre Consumers, where stock is making higher tops and higher bottoms, but it was facing some resistance near to 1700 mark for last, I think, 3-4 weeks time. But yesterday it broke that resistance also with higher volumes. So you can see further up move in Joindre Consumers. Stock can test 1825. So one can go along with the stop loss of 1710. And last one is a buy call on Marico, where stock broke the resistance of 303 yesterday. It is making higher tops and higher bottoms, and possibility is high that this rally will continue and Marico can test 324. So here one can take a long call, keep the stop loss below 306.
All right, so those are the topics coming in from Manas. There were a host of earnings that came through, and let's focus on them. Let's start with Wipro. It's amongst the large cap IT names, and it came out with earnings which are reasonable, but what they're guiding for is looking a little worrisome. Their sales were higher by 2% on a sequential basis. Profit after tax up 7% on a sequential basis. We saw their IT services revenue coming in at $1,955 million versus $1,903 million on a sequential basis. For the fourth quarter, the performance seems reasonable. The EBIT margins were also stable at 18.3%. But what they're guiding for ahead is a little cautious. In constant currency terms, they expect revenue growth of just 1.4%. In dollar terms, that will be a revenue growth of 2.7%, and the rupee revenue growth is seen as 1.6%. Now, why so much cautious? Why is it so not looking so positive? Is because they've guided for -2% to 0% sequential growth for the first quarter, which is the April to June quarter. Now, Wipro has also done some acquisitions. So, if you take the acquisitions out, it means that their revenue will actually degrow. This is perhaps for the first time that a large IT company will see a degrowth in its revenue growth. Since the financial crisis, the management has already indicated that there could be stress in some of the verticals like communications and healthcare. They said that if the Obamacare Act is repealed, then they could lose business. That really hasn't happened so far, but they're still cautious about it. So Wipro at this point of time is still up 2% in pre-open, but we'll watch at how it trades. Manas, do you have a view on Wipro? Amongst the front tier IT stocks, this was one stock that was outperforming. Now, where do you see it headed? Do you think if investors are holding this stock, they should look to book profits?
See, most of the IT stocks are looking weak on the charts, and we have witnessed some selling pressure on higher levels in many IT stocks. Wipro definitely outperformed in last 3 to 4 weeks time, but on high levels, Wipro has a lot of resistance near to 510 or 515 levels. It is trading near to 200-day moving average, and it has some support near to 485. So I think if you're long, then keep the stop loss below 485. If it breaks 485, then you may see a sharp crack and stock can test 460 or 450. So one should be cautious on higher levels. Stock has a lot of resistance near to 510, 515. So buy the stock only if it breaks 515.
Right. LIC Housing Finance was another company that declared numbers, decently good set of numbers. NII came in at 1,039 crores, slightly above estimates. PAT came in absolutely in line. The provisioning number was slightly higher, and that took the PAT in line, despite NII being slightly on the positive side. Now, for LIC, one of the key concerns was what happens to the NIMs. But NIMs did very well. In fact, they expanded. They were higher than estimates. So 2.97, that's where the NIMs stood at. Gross NPA was absolutely flat. It's been a bank which has gross NPAs of less than 0.5%, continues to be the case. Home loan growth was steady at 12%. Total disbursement growth was about 15%. Overall, positive set of numbers. Expect the stock to have a positive bias as far as trading session is concerned. Avinnash, you look at housing finance companies closely. You think LIC Housing is a good play on affordable housing versus some of the other premium names?
Yeah, I think Pankaj, if you see the kind of penetration and the size of LIC Housing, I think they definitely would benefit from the affordable housing pie, and these numbers definitely look pretty solid considering the fact that demonetization happened in November, but I think they managed to recover pretty fast, and I think 18% growth in the profit is definitely an encouraging sign. More importantly, the asset quality remains extremely robust. So our sense is that today you could see a small uptick, but I think over the longer term, say over the next 12 to 15 months, we could even look at a target price of around 725, 730, because definitely I think in FY18 the loan book growth and the loan disbursement growth could be much better than FY17.
All right, another stock that came out with its earnings was M&M Finance. For the fourth quarter, their earnings were quite weak. Interest income grew 14%, but we saw a 31% drop in its profits, mainly because of the stress coming in from some of a poorer asset quality. Gross NPAs expanded 100 basis points and have come up to about 9%. We saw their NPLs falling 17% on a sequential basis and have come in at 4,182 crore rupees. Credit costs for this quarter were 3.4% on an annualized basis. Now, the management has given an outlook for this financial year, which is 2018. They expect the gross NPA ratio to remain around 8%, which remains quite high. Nearly 70% of the demonetization delinquencies have been resolved. They are saying that slippages from recent disbursals have halved, and the benefit or the fall in interest rates will occur in FY18. But everybody is watching the health of the asset quality very closely.
Right. Some of the other companies from the financial space, IDFC Bank as well as ICICI Pru. ICICI Pru, of course, is an insurance company. So that's IDFC Bank for you, 6% growth in terms of profit. NII number growing by 20%. NII growth was decently strong. Gross NPA came in at a positive surprise. Now, the company has sold a significant amount of their gross NPAs to the asset reconstruction company. But, one gets a sense that they've taken a lot of provisioning. So not that it would have a very big impact as far as their, haircut is concerned. Net NPAs also declined quite significantly, so now it's looking on the cleaner side. In terms of provisioning, it was absolutely negligible because they have sold majority of their problem assets. Funded credit went up by 36%. Overall credit went up by 58%. The numbers for this company is still low in terms of base, and that's why you're seeing this 50% jump, the 38% jump. But overall, it's a new bank, and the base effect is taking the numbers slightly higher. ICICI Prudential was another company that declared numbers, decently strong set of numbers. So, firstly, for a company like ICICI Pru, you cannot look at, quarterly profits or quarterly, profitability. You have to look at it on an annual basis. As far as income is concerned, pretty strong, 174. At least it's giving you a sense what's happening with the top line space. There was a 31% growth in the new premiums. The ULIPs grew by about 41 odd percent. Protection premium went up by about 39 odd percent. So overall, matrices are looking good. They are slightly slower than what happened in Q3, but overall, the numbers are looking broadly fine. In terms of some other stocks that will react to numbers, so Z-Learn will react to its numbers. It's about 36 crores in terms of profit versus 15 odd crores. So that's a company that will be in focus, and Swaraj Engine also declared good set of numbers. Let's look at Vedanta as well. So there's been an update. So Cain and Vedanta merger, which was proposed, will be effective tomorrow. That's 27th of April, which means that if you buy Cain today, you cannot get this. You cannot get these shares, and that means that Cain India will have no trading as far as today's session is concerned, or from today it will not be available for trading. The swap ratio, just to revisit, 1 share of Vedanta plus 4 preference shares at 7.5%. All the existing contracts of Cain India did expire yesterday. So it's just an update. Majority of the action in Cain has already happened, and now all the action shifts to Vedanta.
There are a few other stocks that are in focus. Let's quickly go through them. TCS has set May 8th as a record day for the share buyback. Biocon is also in focus. The stock rallied quite strongly a day earlier. The Competition Commission has ruled in favor of Biocon in the case against Roche. Roche prima facie aimed to block affordable breast cancer drug that Biocon was coming out with, and this is the breast cancer drug Trimazumab. Then we have Adani Ports. It's formed a joint venture with France's CMA CGM. The joint venture is to form and operate container terminal at the Mundra port. JSW Steel is aiming to double its capacity by 2030. And Indian Terrain Fashions, DSP BlackRock Mutual Fund has sold about 7 lakh shares at 200 rupees a share, and Reliance Mutual Fund has bought about 6 lakh shares at 199.78 rupees a share. So all these stocks will be in focus.
Right, just about few seconds remaining for markets to open. The important thing is that markets are expected to open at an all-time high. They've closed at an all-time high and they're expected to open in the green. That's always a positive, whatever one may say. But if you're in a new territory, if you're in a new chart, there is always that momentum which can take the market, take some of the large cap stocks on the higher side. So no reason why that momentum should change. It's not changed in the global markets overnight, and that's why that will be in focus. Some of the stocks in the pharma pack like Dr. Reddy's, Divi's Laboratories will also be in focus. So these are names to watch out for. There's been some development in these companies regarding their various plants, but some of them are old, some of them are just an update, so not much in terms of reaction. 12 points, 27 points higher straight away, 32 points higher now for the Nifty, 9,327. So it's going up and the trend seems to continue. Hindalco on your screen is up 1%. Wipro is up close to about 500 odd rupees. Remember, it declared numbers. They've also given a bonus. Infosys 5 rupees higher. ITC about 2 rupees higher. Tata Motors is flat with a positive bias. HDFC Bank has had a great run after the results, but today it's looking on the downside. In fact, it's just all over the place right now. That's Wipro for you. 6 rupees higher, 500 rupees for Wipro, 1.2% higher. Let's look at LIC Housing Finance. Very good set of numbers, but I think the stock is going really nowhere. It's absolutely flat. Let's look at Mahindra and Mahindra Finance. That's about 2 rupees higher, 342 for Mahindra and Mahindra Finance. 1.5 lakh shares traded for that name. IDFC Bank 5% higher, 3 to 4 rupees higher, 60 to 63 rupees for that name. ICICI Prudential, decent set of numbers. There was some sort of optimism going into the numbers. It's up 3 rupees, 423, 424 for ICICI Pru. Zealand, of course, will react to its numbers as well. 5% on the higher side. Also wanted to update about the Sensex. Sensex has crossed the 30,000 mark. I think it's gone to a new life high. I'll just check that for you. Yeah, it's 30,065. The day's high is 30,075, and that's also the case with Sensex. So Sensex, which was actually struggling to go above its lifetime high earlier. Remember, lifetime high for Sensex was not early. It was quite way back in March 2015. ICICI 100.6% higher. Bharti Infratel was the top gainer yesterday. Reliance is up around 4 to 5 odd rupees. Reliance, of course, reacted to its numbers yesterday. Anisha, any other names that you can pick up with volumes?
Well, a lot of unusual names are up today. Nucleus Software is up 11.5%. I think that one is also buzzing on the back of results. Archie's is up 7%. We have IDFC Bank and IDFC both buzzing in trade on high volumes. We have Andhra Cement up 5%. We have Bharat Immunologicals and Bio up 5.5%. Titagar Wagons is up 4.5%, and Zealand, as you mentioned, is also up, trading firmly. So in the morning trade, we're seeing more gainers on strong volumes, but very unusual names. What would you do, Avinnash, with stocks like LIC Housing Finance? They've come out with their earnings, and they've been trading at record levels, 670. Do you think now is a good time to book profit, or should long-term investors stay invested in stocks like this?
No, I think from a longer term perspective, I would believe that we could see better numbers coming out for FY18, both on the loan disbursement growth as well as the overall incremental order book position is concerned. I would believe that I think if one were to look at the early set of trend of Q4 numbers, they have been pretty encouraging, and I would not be surprised that possibly I think FY18 should be a lot better. So I would prefer to hold on. I think any dip should be used as an opportunity to accumulate.
Right. Amar, what will be your call on some of these housing finance companies? Not only LIC, but even Indiabulls declared strong numbers, even Canfin declared strong numbers. What's your call on the overall housing finance space?
Yeah, overall, what we see is that the trend definitely remains overall positive, but there could be some profit booking coming in the market. So I would suggest that there should be some cautious approach, because we are seeing record highs being made on the major indices as well, and overall the sentiments remains positive, but I would say that one should look at booking some profits. At least 30-40% of the profit definitely should be booked.
Right. In terms of M&M Finance, what will be your call? Numbers were not looking that great. Commentary was good. That's why probably the stock has gone up. But on a chart basis, how is the stock looking?
Yeah, overall on the chart basis, we are seeing a bearish divergence on the charts. So clearly reflecting that overall M&M is somewhat losing steam. And on the upside, this 345, 350 level, that's going to act as a key resistance level, and we are going to witness profit booking around these levels. But yes, once 350 level is breached consistently on the upside, then it's headed higher towards 380, 385 levels. Whereas on the downside, immediate and crucial support for it is around 315 to 320. But as I said, overall it's displaying bearish divergence on the chart. So that clearly reflects that the stock is losing momentum and steam. So profit booking would also come in this stock unless it sustains above 350.
Right. Just a word on Wipro as well. So guidance was disappointing, but still the stock is up 3%. Any call on that name?
Yeah, overall, looking at Wipro is, from a short-term perspective, if you look at Wipro, it's on the downside, 485, 490, 515, 520. So that's the overall range for Wipro. But from a medium-term or intermediate term, I would say that Wipro is looking good on the charts. And definitely from a long-term perspective, it has formed a base. So these I would say patterns are positive for Wipro. But what is the major concern is the way the rupee has appreciated. They look at the USD from 69 to 64. So that's something which is really impacting or would impact these IT companies. So that's something. But technically, as I speak, I would say that Wipro is in a range 515, 520 on the upside and 485, 490 on the downside. That's a narrow range that Wipro is likely to trade in.
And overall, what's your call on the IT pack? If you look at the IT index, what would be your call?
I would say that it is more of a consolidation. I don't see a major rally from here. It's more of a consolidation and sideways trading for the IT sector.
Right. Avinnash, Axis Bank will declare numbers today. You think it will be important because till now we've had the good companies like HDFC, IndusInd declaring numbers. So this will be an important number for the banking sector.
Yeah, definitely, Pankaj. In fact, the provisioning number is going to be very important, especially after the RBI directive that they have to provide incrementally for, the JPA kind of asset, which, even Axis Bank has got a decent exposure here. So I would believe that, here the asset quality could be possibly under strain and we could see the slippages as well as the provisioning increase. I mean, what management commentary comes out is extremely important because if there is any signal as to, the asset quality going forward is going to remain under control or it's going to be brought more stable, then I think you could possibly see an uptick on the stock. But clearly the management commentary and the provisioning number will be key numbers to monitor today.
Right. But in terms of management commentary, do you think markets would say if the numbers are not that great or numbers are just in line with a little bit of negative bias? If the management says they expect an improvement, will it be taken like how IndusInd and Yes Bank commentary has been, or people will wait for the numbers because, they have said that improvement is happening, but however, yet as of now, for ICICI and Axis, no major trends are seen?
No, I think at least in the near term, the stocks could react negatively if the numbers at the provisioning level and the bottom line level are below the street expectations. But going forward, I think possibly the June quarter and the September quarter, I think one will definitely hopefully like to see whether what the management says actually gets implemented and gets reflected in the numbers. So overall, I think definitely the bias could be negative. I think if the numbers don't come up to expectation, and the provisioning number is definitely likely to inch up, because if you see the numbers from Yes Bank, I think provisioning number was a tad high on a sequential basis, and that actually brought down the stock for a couple of days post the results.
Manas, do you have a view on auto names like Maruti, which is closer to resistance levels of 6,350, and TVS Motors from the two-wheeler pack? It has outperformed its larger peers like Bajaj Auto and Hero MotoCorp. What would you do with these two names?
See, I'm quite bullish on M&M and Hero MotoCorp in auto space, but if you're talking about TVS, the overall trend is positive because stock is making higher tops and higher bottoms. And now I think looking at the pattern, the stock can break 500 also, and it can test 510, 515. So if you're a trader, then definitely you can take a long call here, keep the stop loss below 480. And if you're talking about Maruti, now I think if you're a trader, then you should buy Maruti only if it breaks 6350. Not before that, because stock has some resistance near to 6350. If it breaks 6350, then the next target would be around 6500. So buy Maruti above 6350. You can set the target of 6500, and you can keep the stop loss below 6275.
All right. Avinnash, what do you make of the move in Biocon a day earlier? We've got the news coming in that it's got some relief when it comes to its breast cancer drug. Do you think the stock is headed higher? If investors have not invested so far, are these good levels to invest in?
I think as far as Biocon is concerned, it's actually done pretty well if you look at the entire pharma space. Our sense is that, these results which come out, on the 27th are definitely going to be pretty strong. And the company has also announced its intention to declare a bonus. So I would believe that, I think one should wait for the numbers. But overall, I think the structure of the business seems to be quite positive. Any new molecule development and release is obviously going to be a positive surprise for both FY18 and 19. On FY18 also the stock looks pretty fairly valued. But I think going forward, looking at the kind of growth prospects, any dip should be used as an opportunity to buy. I would believe that those who have should hold on.
Okay, hold on to stocks like Biocon. But Amar, on the charts, what do you see for Biocon? It's a big move a day earlier. It's been volatile, but it has returned 100% over the last 1 year.
Yeah, overall, looking at Biocon, if you look at from a long-term perspective, yes, it has witnessed a spectacular rally. But I would say from an intermediate term, as a short-term perspective, it's completely trendless on the charts. It's if you see over the last 3 days or so, from 1060 to 1165. So it's not something which is very easily tradable from a short-term perspective, and also from a medium-term, intermediate-term perspective on the weekly charts. It's clearly showing signs of a weakness, or as I said, losing momentum. And even from a short-term perspective, I would see that the chart is not really clearly displaying some trend. So that reflects that overall there could be some volatile trading session in this chart. Upside would be around 1175, 1180. That could be a level of resistance, and whereas on the downside, 1060 a couple of days back. So it would. So this is a significant range, almost a 10% roughly range. But clearly, as I said, it's a not tradable right now. So those trading from a short-term perspective, they would have to be extremely cautious in this stock.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on NDTV Profit today and giving us your picks and all the stocks that we have discussed, your views on them. As you go, please leave us with your disclosures. Avinash, any disclosures from you?
Yeah, I think, Anisha, whichever stocks we mentioned today on the show, our clients may be having some positions here. On an individual level, I don't have any positions in any of the stocks mentioned today.
Manas, your disclosures?
No personal holding in these stocks, but we have recommended these stocks to our clients.
Amar, your disclosures?
Yeah, no personal holdings, but yes, our clients could be holding some of these stocks.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on NDTV Profit.